Exposed, how a hidden struggle over a dress led to an amazing love for a millionaire CEO. Emma stood in her small dressmaking shop, sunlight filtering through the dusty windows, melding with the scent of fabric and thread. The bell above the door chimed softly, rarely interrupted in the quiet suburb of Maplewood, a place where dreams felt both beautiful and distant. Emma's heart ached with the weight of responsibility since her father's passing. The shop had been his legacy, passed down for generations, but now it felt like a heavy crown she couldn't quite hold up. A sigh escaped her lips as she threaded her old sewing machine, its clunky metallic body her only companion in the solitude of her creative world. Then the phone rang. It was a high-profile client. Jake, an audacious millionaire CEO known for an eye for the extravagant and a talent for startups. The gentleman who had built empires with flair and lived a life dripping in luxury. Emma's pulse quickened, the possibilities spinning in her mind like threads on her machine. She was being asked to create a custom gown for an upcoming charity gala, a chance to shine and escape the suffocating shadows that clung to her. As the days rolled on and their interactions began, Emma felt an undeniable connection with him. His designer suit couldn't hide the loneliness behind his eyes, nor could it dampen the pull they both felt. In their shared moments, they talked about family. His drive for success echoed her dedication to the legacy of her father's shop. But like a fabric cut too tight, the divisions of their worlds were painfully evident. She poured herself into her work, hoping to reflect not just style, but her soul. But just as excitement filled the air, so did insecurity. A post on social media twisted her pride into anger, labeling her gown as a mere accessory in Jake's world, just another footnote in an extravagant story. Emma's heart sank, the anger bubbled and clashed with her hopes. The night of the gala was drawing near. Could she really stand in the shadow of wealth, gazing up at the sparkling facade of Jake's life? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On the night of the gala, the atmosphere sizzled with glamour, and there was Emma's dress, glimmering like a captured dream against the backdrop of luxury. She stood hidden, watching as Jake entered, all sharp angles and confident charm. They exchanged a glance, an understanding sparked in the air, but it stayed just beyond their reach. Tension swirled as Emma questioned everything: her dreams, her family, the fabric of her existence. The runway, the crowd, and the brilliant lights seemed to mock her fears. Should she follow the glitter that called to her heart or the roots that tethered her to the ground? Torn between ambition and loyalty, Emma faced the ultimate choice, her heart racing as the world around her blurred. It was a moment filled with weighty silence. One breath could redefine everything, but would she have the courage to take the leap? Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart pounding in her chest. The lights were blinding, casting a magical glow over everything, yet she felt isolated, as though a thick fog hung around her. She could feel her dress hugging her form, a reminder of the hard work she'd put into every stitch. But all that effort seemed to fade away in the face of Jake's world, a world that sparkled with riches and filled with laughter she wasn't sure she belonged to. Emma, a familiar voice broke through the clamor. It was Jake, weaving through the sea of guests with an intensity that drew everyone's gaze, including hers. There was something soft in his expression, a flicker of warmth amidst the polished facade. He approached her, and the world around them faded into a murmur. "You look stunning," he said, eyes glimmering with sincerity. His compliment wrapped around her, filling the empty spaces inside. "Thank you," she replied, suddenly feeling both vulnerable and empowered. Their chemistry crackled in the air, and for a moment, she forgot about the whispers surrounding them. Then the reality hit her again, sharper than before. She was out of her league, and all he saw was her dress. The crowd swirled around them, and he extended his arm. "Shall we?" Before she could contemplate the decision, his hand was on her back, guiding her toward the center of the gala. The music pulsed beneath her skin, drawing her deeper into the extravagant world. To anyone else, they were a picture of perfection, a wealthy CEO with a stunning designer by his side. But inside, Emma felt the jagged edges of her insecurities slicing at her confidence. As they glided across the dance floor, she caught sight of the camera flashes. Every snap felt like a spotlight on her insecurities. "What if they think I'm just a trophy?" she whispered, a wave of anxiety washing over her. Jake paused, real concern etching his features. "Emma, you're not just some accessory. You're talented, passionate." His voice trailed off, but the warmth in his gaze held her steady. She wanted to believe him, to trust in the connection they shared. "I'm just afraid," she admitted. "Afraid of not being enough for you." A silence hung between them, thick and heavy. He stepped closer, almost causing her to forget the world that surrounded them. "I need you to know that my life is more than philanthropy and businesses. I want someone genuine at my side. That's you, Emma." Her heart swelled at his confession. But just then, across the room, she saw a group of socialites pointing at her and whispering. A familiar rush of doubt crept back in, sinking into her resolve. "They see my dress, Jake. They don't see me." "No," Jake said firmly, a spark igniting in his eyes. "You are so much more than a dress. You're the heart of this event, and I won't lose you in their trivial opinions." Emma held his gaze as the moment hung between them, a fragile truce against the harsh reality. But the nagging whispers were still there, and Emma's heart sank at the thought of the ridicule just waiting to strike. "Can you really mean that?" she whispered, vulnerability seeping through her voice. In response, Jake smiled, a gentle yet firm confidence radiating from him. "I've never meant anything more. But I can't fight your fears for you." Just then, a sudden cheer erupted, and the crowd shifted toward the stage. The gala was about to kick off, leaving her breathless and hesitating. "Emma, don't let fear draw you back," Jake urged, his grip on her hand tightening. "Step forward with me. Be who you are." As the crowd roared, she struggled, caught between the life she'd known and the one that beckoned. Would she step into the light, or would she retreat back into the shadows? With her heart threatening to burst, she felt the weight of the moment, a choice that could change everything. But would she find the courage to embrace the life waiting just outside her comfort zone? And as the crowd cheered, she knew one thing: this moment was merely the beginning. The stage glowed with an ethereal light, drawing every eye and ear towards the charismatic host poised at the microphone. Emma felt the heat of anticipation wash over her, and for a moment, the whispers and stares faded into background noise. She stood at the precipice of change, Jake's presence anchoring her. "Let us dance," he said, his confidence radiating like the sparkling chandeliers hanging overhead. With a gentle tug, he pulled her closer, bringing her to the center of the dance floor. She could feel the energy around them, a mix of excitement and apprehension, pulsating like the bass of the music. They swayed together, and Emma was surprised to find herself relaxing. The aroma of fresh flowers filled the air, mingling with the sweetness of champagne. As they spun, she caught fleeting glimpses of the guests around them, their eyes wide with envy, admiration painting their expressions. It transformed her self-doubt into something softer, something almost electric. "You know," Jake said softly, "this is where you belong. Right here, with me." His words were like an embrace, wrapping around her heart. She wanted to believe him, to trust in the moment they shared. But then doubt crept back, slipping through the cracks. "But what if I don't fit into this world?" she said, voice barely above a whisper. "What if I ruin everything?" He stepped back, searching her eyes, their connection deepening in the silence that followed. "Emma, don't you see? You bring something real to my life. It's not about fitting in, it's about being yourself." As the crowd cheered again, the world around them felt simultaneously vibrant and terrifying. She looked out to see faces filled with curiosity and judgment, and suddenly she felt naked under their scrutiny. What if they saw through her facade? What if the real her was too unrefined for a man like Jake? "Look at me," Jake said, tilting her chin gently so she would meet his gaze. "You are worth more than their opinion. You have dreams and aspirations that make you who you are. Not every dress can do that." His challenge resonated deep within her. For the first time, she wondered what if she owned her story? What if she let go of comparison and focused solely on her truth? The idea started to blossom like the flowers in the grand arrangements surrounding them. But before she could fully embrace it, the host announced a surprise. "Now, to kick off the gala, let us auction off something special right from the heart. A design by one of our own." A gasp went through the crowd, and Emma's heart skipped a beat. The auction would feature her work, a piece she had created just months ago in her small studio. The reality of exposure hit her like a tidal wave. "Do you think they'll even want it?" She blurted out, fear swirling back in like storm clouds. Jake squeezed her hand. "They will, because it's brilliant. You need to believe in your talent. You deserve recognition." As the auctioneer spoke, Emma felt her breath quicken. This was her chance to step out of the shadows, not just for Jake, but for herself. Could she take that leap? Could she open herself to possibility, to vulnerability, in front of all these people? The moment the bidding began, Emma's heart raced wildly. The weight of what was happening spiraled into a whirlwind of emotions: excitement, fear, hope, and a flicker of pride. She saw arms raised around her, heard the enthusiastic shouts. But the dress she wore felt heavier now, complicated by the stakes of the moment. As the auction soared higher, her internal battle raged. Who was she really? Would she allow herself to accept this as part of her journey? Just when the auctioneer signaled for the final bid, she caught Jake's eye. His encouragement was a lighthouse cutting through the fog of her doubts. She breathed in deeply, letting his unwavering support fuel her resolve. Would she seize this moment and step into the light, or would she stay hidden in the confines of her doubts? Emma felt the world pause in anticipation, and with it, the direction of her life began to shift. And as the final gavel struck down, sealing the fate of her creation, she realized it was time for her truth to be unveiled. Would it be liberating, or would she find herself lost in the aftermath? The echo of the gavel faded, but the buzz in the room only intensified. Emma stood frozen, the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. Her heart hammered in her chest, drowning out the sounds around her. Did she just risk everything in one bid? The guests were now shifting their attention to her, a spotlight she never wanted. Jake pulled her close, his eyes sparkling. "You did it, Emma. You put yourself out there." His enthusiasm spilled over, mingling with her uncertainty. She wanted to smile, to feel excited, but the flutter of fear still twisted in her gut. What if they hate it? She murmured, glancing around at the sea of faces that now felt like a judgment council. "They won tea. You created something beautiful. You just need to believe it," he encouraged, squeezing her hand tighter. Emma pulled in a shaky breath, clinging to his support like a lifeline. She had done it. She'd let her work be seen. And yet, anxiety fluttered within her like a trapped bird. What if her design was met with criticism? What if it defined her in a way she couldn't handle? Feeling overwhelmed, she took a step back, scanning the crowd. Jane, her former classmate who had always overshadowed her, stood just beyond the auctioneer. That smug look was back on her face, like a predator sizing up its prey. "Isn't this exciting?" Jane exclaimed with a forced enthusiasm that felt more cutting than kind. "I'd love to see how much it fetches. I mean, it's just a dress after all, right?" The laughter that erupted from her table snapped Emma's tension. The humiliation washed over her like icy water. How could she let Jane's words worm their way under her skin again? Don't listen to her, Jake whispered fiercely. Your work is worth more than her opinion. In that moment, Emma realized she didn't just need to prove something to others, she needed to prove it to herself. She turned her focus back to the auctioneer, who was announcing the final bid. The numbers were indeed climbing. Each figure felt like a shift in her reality. She was no longer just a struggling artist, she was brave, daring to share her vision. The auctioneer finally banged the gavel down, bringing a wave of applause. A name floated through the air, puncturing her thoughts. Sold to Mr. Richard Devereux. Emma's pulse quickened as she searched for the man who had just purchased her work. A tall figure emerged from the crowd, a striking presence with sharp features and an air of confidence. To her surprise, he approached, a charming smile spreading across his face. "Miss Emma Carter?" he asked, voice smooth as silk. "I must say, your design is stunning. It radiates a sense of boldness. I'm absolutely thrilled to be the owner." Emma's cheeks flushed. "Thank you." Words caught in her throat. She was standing in front of a wealthy businessman, and yet, he was staring at her as though she held all the secrets of the universe. "What inspired you?" he inquired, his gaze never wavering. The question lingered, pulling at Emma's heart. Did she dare to reveal her vulnerabilities? Did she explain how her creations were linked to her journey of self-acceptance? Before she could answer, Jake interjected. "It was a labor of love, for sure. She poured her heart into it. It deserves to be seen for all it is." There was pride in his voice, and it swelled her chest with warmth. "I'd like to meet you after the gala, Emma," Richard said, holding her gaze. "I'd love to discuss how we can collaborate further. Your vision is something truly special." A swirl of emotions flooded through Emma: hope, excitement, fear, and confusion. A collaboration? What did that mean for her? For her future? As Richard turned to mingle with the crowd, Jake stepped closer again. "You see? This is just the beginning." But in her heart, doubt returned. What would it mean to put her passion into someone else's hands? What if she failed in a bigger arena? "Let us talk more about this later," she said, trying to focus on the moment, even as her thoughts tangled. As the evening unfolded around them, filled with laughter and celebration, Emma stood at the edge of her dreams, both enthralled and terrified. The gala was no longer just a stylish affair, it was the doorway she had been waiting for. But would she step through? And what lay beyond that threshold? The gala swirled around Emma, a whirlwind of laughter and camera flashes. She had just stepped onto a stage she never imagined she would claim. As the crowd mingled and celebrated, every smile, every voice felt like a reminder of the vulnerable part of herself she'd just exposed. She felt both naked and invincible, but the shadows of doubt still loomed. Jake leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Are you okay?" His eyes, normally so bright, held a tinge of worry. "I don't know, Jake," she admitted, biting her lip. "What if he wants too much? What if I can't deliver?" "Hey," he said firmly, tilting her chin to meet his gaze. "You're more than a dress. Look at all these people. They believe in you, and so should you. This is your moment." The warmth of his encouragement wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. A few guests broke off from their groups and approached her, complimenting her design with genuine enthusiasm. Their words were healing, and each one chipped away at her worry. But then Jane's laughter cut through the air again, sharp and taunting. "I guess we'll see how long this lasts. One dress doesn't make an artist," Jane sneered from across the room. The comment felt like a spitball fired at Emma, intent on hitting its mark. She quickly turned away, refusing to let it ruin the night. "Focus on the positive," she reminded herself, taking a deep breath. She spotted Richard across the room, his tall figure perfectly composed among the crowd. He was talking to another guest, but his eyes met hers, and the warmth that bloomed in her chest sent her into a dizzying flush. What was it again? She wondered aloud, her hand instinctively covering the pendant hanging over her heart. Boldness? Passion? This was the story she wanted to tell. Not just about fabric and stitches but about taking risks. Jake caught her staring and nudged her playfully. If you're going to bite your lip off like that, at least do it on my account. You could use it as a distraction, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. Emma laughed, grateful for his camaraderie. But as she looked again at Richard, she felt the pull towards him, wondering what possibilities lay in their potential collaboration. Would this lead to something more? Was she ready for the demands of that world? Or was it just a whim, a fleeting encounter fueled by the buzz of excitement? The music shifted to a slower rhythm, couples glided across the dance floor, lost in bliss. She watched them dance, a fresh idea blooming in her mind. Perhaps she could let someone in. Maybe she could put down her walls, even just for a moment. Let us dance, she said impulsively, grabbing Jake's hand. He chuckled at the abrupt change, yet together they made their way toward the floor. As they joined others swaying to the music, Emma found herself letting the rhythm seep into her bones, allowing herself to breathe. Then, without warning, Richard appeared at her side. "Do you mind if I cut in?" His voice was warm, inviting, and sending shivers down her spine. Emma hesitated, glancing to Jake, who raised an eyebrow. "I think you should take the opportunity," he whispered, a genuine smile lighting his face. With a deep breath, she turned back to Richard, feeling both empowered and terrifically nervous. "Sure, I'd love to," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. As Richard took her hand, the world around them faded, and it was just the two of them, moving to the music, tempers flaring in the air between them. Their chemistry was undeniable. "What do you see when you look at this dress?" she asked, trying to gauge the man who had just bought a piece of her heart. He paused, searching her eyes as though the answer lay just beyond their depths. "I see strength. I see the future," he answered meaningfully. And in that moment, as they danced under the soft glow of chandeliers, Emma felt the possibility of something new unfolding. But as the song flowed on, she couldn't shake the question, what would it mean to intertwine her life with Richard S., and was she really ready for it? A sudden jarring thought took hold, what if the dance led to a plunge? What if love, like art, came with risks she had yet to confront? As the last notes of the song played, Emma knew she was standing at a crossroads. Would she choose to leap into the unknown? Or would she retreat to the safety of her comfort zone? The music faded into an echo, and the world seemed to still for Emma, leaving only the intoxicating rhythm of her heart. Richard's hand was warm against hers, anchoring her as they swayed innocently among couples drenched in romance. His presence was magnetic, drawing her closer to the possibility of more than just a collaboration. "Strength and the future," she repeated softly, a smile dancing on her lips. His words wrapped around her hopes, igniting a spark within. She searched his eyes and saw a flicker of something she dared to interpret as interest, maybe even admiration. Did he really see her that way? Suddenly, laughter erupted nearby, breaking the moment. Jane, ever the queen of disruption, had found a new target. "Look at them. I guess she has finally got herself a wealthy patron," she laughed, nudging her friends as they giggled. Emma's cheeks burned, not from embarrassment but annoyance. Why did Jane always have to take her down a peg? Richard must have sensed the shift in her demeanor because he leaned closer, his voice a soft balm against her rising tide of nerves. "Ignore them," he whispered, brushing her arms lightly with his fingers. "You're far more than what they see." Bracing herself, Emma met his gaze, feeling strength swell in her chest. His confidence in her felt faintly palpable, sending a rush of warmth through her veins. "Can we just forget them?" she suggested, her resolve shining through. "Let us just enjoy this moment." His smile widened, revealing a dimple in his cheek that made her heart skip. As they kept dancing, she let herself be swept up in their light, the music guiding them into an intimate space. Time peeled away, and it was just Emma, Richard, and a crowded room of whispers. But behind the allure of new feelings, doubt nagged at the edges of her mind. Was she prepared for this? A relationship with someone like Richard could reel her into a world of expectations and high stakes, far removed from what she knew. Was she truly ready to risk her heart? And what if he wanted more than she was willing to give? As if sensing her internal struggle, he leaned over, his breath brushing her ear. "You're talented, Emma. This dress isn't just fabric, it's a piece of you." Each word he spoke felt like truth weaving through her doubts. "I want this to be more than just a dress," she confessed quietly, surprised at the vulnerability escaping her lips. "But I'm scared." "No one can blame you for that," he replied, his tone steady. "But sometimes, taking the plunge is worth the fall." The intensity of his gaze held her mesmerized. Whispered assurances mingled with the beats of the music, a melodic force sweeping away the uncertainty. Yet deep down, Emma knew that with a leap could come a tumble back to reality. As the song finally reached its climax, she felt the pressure of the moment pressing in on her. Could she truly step into the unknown with this man who gazed at her as if she was the only person in the room? Suddenly, the spell broke as the lights dimmed and the music shifted to an upbeat tempo, signaling the end of the slow dance. Feeling the gravity of Richard's presence still lingering, she took a step back, the fleeting moment leaving both hope and caution swirling inside her. "Shall we take a break?" Emma suggested, their connection still vibrant in the air. "Sure," he agreed, his smile unwavering. "But let us grab a drink first." As they moved away from the dance floor, Emma could feel the weight of unspoken words and uncharted paths hovering between them. Her heart raced as she followed him, caught between the excitement of potential and the fear of what lies ahead. But the night was still young, and she knew the choices waiting ahead could forever change everything. As they reached the bar, she caught a glimpse of Jane's smirk across the room, and a feeling stirred within Emma. What if this was just the beginning? Was she ready to fight for what might just be her greatest adventure yet? Emma settled onto a bar stool, the cool surface grounding her as she tried to collect her thoughts. Richard leaned against the bar, his eyes still twinkling from their dance. He ordered 2 drinks, and the bartender slid them over with a knowing smile. "Here you go," he said, handing one to Emma. "Thanks," she murmured, taking a sip. The fizzy drink danced on her tongue, but it did little to settle the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. Richard took a seat beside her, his energy vibrant, infectious even, but it only made her conflict grow stronger. "So," he said, leaning in slightly. "What's your vision for the dress, really? I mean, more than just the fabric." His question hung in the air, teasing her to open up. Emma hesitated, feeling the weight of her dreams rush to the surface. "It's not just about the design. It's about making a statement, showing people that craftsmanship can be art." He listened intently, nodding. "I love that. I see you pouring your heart into this project." Her heartbeat quickened again, propelled by the way he regarded her. His attention felt profound, almost like a tether pulling her closer to the depths of her aspirations. "But there's a lot riding on it too," she added, allowing the vulnerability to escape once more. "What if it all falls apart? What if I fail?" Richard shook his head, a firm conviction in his voice. "You're not the type to fail. You're brave to pursue what you love. Most people don't even try." His words wrapped around her, instilling a sudden rush of courage. Yet, just as that flicker of confidence ignited, the room morphed back into a scene of scrutiny. Jane's laughter echoed once again, mingling with the clinking of glasses and the chatter around them. It served as a sharp reminder of the crowd, the judgmental eyes, and the uncharitable whispers. "Do you ever feel like the whole world is watching?" Emma asked, glancing around nervously. "It's like I'm always performing for them." I get that, Richard replied, his brow furrowing in empathy. The pressure can be suffocating. He paused for a moment, his gaze piercing through the noise. But let them watch. You're doing something remarkable. What if I'm just an illusion? She whispered, more to herself than to him. Just a girl with a dress? No, Richard said fiercely, his voice unwavering. You're so much more than that. You can't let anyone define you. Especially not them. The gravity of his words resonated deeply. What if she allowed herself to be vulnerable? What if she embraced this adventure, potential pitfalls and all? Just as she was contemplating this transformation, her eyes darted back to Jane, who was now circling the bar, her smirk ever present. Was she waiting for the right moment to strike again? Emma felt a mixture of dread and defiance flare up inside her. This is my dream, she said softly, almost as if to convince herself. I shouldn't let her fear stand in my way. Richard raised his glass, offering her a toast. To dreams. To strength. And to doing it our way no matter what others think. Their glasses clinked, and for a moment, the world around them faded into a blur. The laughter, the judgment, even the bright lights, all softened into nothingness. Maybe this moment really was a catalyst. But as Emma took a sip, she caught the look in Richard's eyes. A deeper connection was forming, and with it came the inevitable weight of expectations and choices. Would he be able to stand by her side when the paths ahead got rocky? Okay, let's ditch this bar soon, Richard said casually, but his gaze lingered on her a moment longer, as if he wanted to hold her forever in this beautiful bubble of possibility. Emma felt her heart race anew. Was she ready to exchange the comfort of the familiar for an unpredictable, exciting connection? Let us dance again, she blurted out unexpectedly, the words rushing from her mouth before she could second-guess herself. Richard's smile widened, mischief dancing in his eyes. As you wish. As they descended into the rhythm of the room once more, her worries melted under the music, but the nagging thoughts about Jane, about the risks, loomed just out of reach. Stepping back into the limelight, could there be enough strength in both of them for the adventure that awaited? With every beat, she felt the question resonating through her, was love really worth the risk? Emma felt the beat move through her, letting the music seep into her skin. With each pulse, her worries about Jane and the expectations of the world around her began to dissolve. Richard's presence was buoyant, a tangible support system that anchored her in this ephemeral moment. As they swayed, Richard's hand found its way to the small of her back, guiding her with assurance. Their bodies moved as one, weaving through the crowd like they had mastered this dance long before tonight. She glanced up at him, and the look in his eyes, the way they sparkled with delight and appreciation, was mesmerizing. It ignited a flicker of hope in her heart. What if I really did go for it? Emma's voice barely registered above the music, but Richard leaned in to catch her words. She felt bold. Invincible. What if I dedicated myself entirely to this dress, made it everything I've dreamed? He smiled, hand tightening ever so slightly on her waist. Then the world better be ready for you, Emma. Because you'll blow them away. She couldn't help but beam at him, caught in something deeper than just the dance. Maybe it was the room's intoxicating energy or the rush of ambition flowing through her veins, but that moment felt like a turning point. She could picture unveiling her creation, receiving applause, silence giving way to cheers, the thrill of success. But then, Jane appeared at the edge of the dance floor, arms crossed and a knowing smirk plastered on her face. Her presence was like a sudden chill piercing through the warmth of sunshine. Emma's heartbeat quickened again, and dread pooled in her stomach. Richard noticed her change in demeanor. What's wrong? Emma swallowed hard, her gaze locking onto Jane's, who seemed to revel in the tension. It's just her. She's always lurking around, waiting to pounce. Let her try, Richard said, his voice steady, grounding her. You're in control of your destiny, not her. Taking a deep breath, Emma let the music pull her back, swaying again against Richard, but the old insecurities lurked like shadows. Rather than succumbing to them, she spun in a circle, her dress flaring out, her laughter ringing through the air without hesitation. It was infectious. Richard laughed with her, lifting her hand and twirling her once more. Around them, the dance floor became a lively blur of faces, and for that short moment, all that mattered was here, now, in this connection they shared. As the song came to an end, they stopped, both panting lightly from exertion. "See? Just like that," Richard said with a teasing grin. "The world could be yours, you just need to claim it." She searched his eyes, so filled with belief. "But what if I don't know how?" "Then we figure it out together." He reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, and her breath caught. The warmth of his hand lingered against her skin, igniting her courage. Before she could respond, Richard leaned in closer. "Embrace this. You're meant for more than just the ordinary. Trust the process." His words wrapped around her heart, but as she looked past him, she caught Jane's gaze again. It was dripping with disdain. The smirk had vanished, replaced by a frown that spoke volumes, a challenge, a whisper of doubt that penetrated the haze of hope. Emma changed her focus back to Richard, who was watching her intently, as if he could see through the tangle of emotions battling in her chest. "You really mean it?" she asked, searching for the certainty that she needed. "Absolutely," he replied, the confidence in his tone resonating deeply within her. But just as she was on the verge of that leap, her phone buzzed, breaking into the moment like an uninvited guest. She glanced down, seeing a notification from her mentor, a reminder about the upcoming showcase. The stakes suddenly felt real, daunting. "Can we take a break?" she said, anxiety creeping back in. "Of course," Richard replied, offering her a reassuring smile. As they stepped away from the crowd, the weight of her ambition settled heavier now. Could she really face Jane, the challenges, and herself? Emma wrestled with the tumult of emotions that twisted in her gut. Richard leaned closer, whispering fiercely, "Remember, you're not alone. Just one step at a time." With her heart racing in sync with the rhythm of possibility, she nodded slowly, but uncertainty lingered, heavy. Was she truly ready for the inevitable showdown, both with Jane and her own fears? "I'll try," she whispered, wishing it didn't feel like such a battle even to say it. But as her gaze wandered back to the dance floor, she realized each step she took mattered. What lay ahead could be monumental if only she could find the courage to embrace it. The bass thumped through the walls, a pulsating heartbeat that filled Emma's chest with both energy and apprehension. The dance floor had morphed back into a whirlwind of color and movement, but her mind was no longer in sync with the rhythm. "Okay," she mumbled, "I need to wipe the slate clean. For this night, let's just pretend Jane doesn't exist." Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward the bar, the clinking of glasses and laughter blending into a comforting backdrop. Richard followed close behind, like the steadfast lighthouse against her stormy sea of thoughts. "What are you going to have?" he asked, his voice light, an anchor she desperately needed. "Something fruity and sweet," she replied, scanning the menu while trying to ignore the knot forming in her stomach. "Maybe a cocktail to calm these pre-show jitters?" "Good idea." Richard stepped up to the bar. "2 tropical punches, please." While they waited, she felt his arm brush against hers, and warmth spread through her. It was a reminder that even in the midst of chaos, she had this. "Thank you for being here." "It means a lot," she admitted, her heart swelling with gratitude. He flashed a smile that danced in time with the music, revealing a depth she hardly understood. "You don't have to thank me. Watching you pursue what you love is inspiring." In that moment, the horizon of her dreams became clearer. "I've never felt like I could take a big risk before," she confessed, her voice barely cutting through the surrounding chatter. "It's always been about staying safe, pleasing everyone else." "Then why not break the mold?" he suggested gently. "If not now, when?" She considered his words. Wasn't he every moment she spent in doubt one she'd never get back? I want to. I really do. It's just hard to shake off the fears. Especially with someone like Jane always looming. A serious expression crossed Richard's face. Fear is normal, Emma. But don't let it stifle your creativity. What if you went back to that dress you're working on? Picture it in full color, and how it could radiate your unique vision. Emma smiled softly at the thought. The vision of her dress, the one that had nested in her heart for too long, started to surface. The layers of fabric dancing with light, the intricate stitching that spoke her story, it was a piece of her heart. Their drinks arrived, and she took a sip, letting the sweet flavors wash over her. This is good, she said, savoring the escape it provided. Not as good as you'll be on that stage, Richard said, his eyes sparkling. It was a simple compliment but carried a weight that wrapped around her like a warm embrace. As the current song faded, Emma caught Jane glancing her way from across the room. The uncertainty bubbled back up, but as she moved her drink aside, she felt a swell of determination. You know what? I'm tired of letting her dictate how I feel. I will go out there and shine. I really will. Richard raised his glass, grinning proudly. That's the spirit. You'll definitely shock her and everyone else, I'm sure. Just as she was about to respond, the lights dimmed further, and the MC's voice boomed through the speakers, announcing the next showcase event. An electric energy surged through the crowd, a wave of excitement and anticipation that coursed through her veins. Hey, do you want to walk over there together? She asked, her voice steady now. Absolutely, he replied, offering her his hand. As they threaded their way through the crowd, the moment warped into slow motion. Loud laughter surrounded them, people swayed to the music. Emma felt alive, ready to take the plunge, but the impending showcase loomed ahead, carving doubt into her vibrant bubble of confidence. What if she exposed her passion only to be met with the same disdain reflected in Jane's eyes? Richard squeezed her hand, a silent promise that he'd be by her side every step of the way. They reached the edge of the stage, where the spotlight glinting in the distance held both promise and fear. Are you ready? He asked, and the sincerity in his gaze electrified the air between them. She took a deep breath, the weight of possibility fighting against doubt. It was time to leap, time to believe. But a flicker of realization crossed her mind, the true battle was just beginning. So ready, she declared, though uncertainty lingered at the edges of her resolve. In that very moment, a single thought rolled over her: would she have the strength to break free not just from Jane, but from the fear that had held her back for so long? As she stepped forward, her heart raced with both excitement and dread, and all that lay ahead began to feel almost like destiny. Emma stood at the edge of the stage, heart pounding like a drum beneath her elegant creation. The kaleidoscope of lights danced in her vision, casting an inspiring glow over the audience gathered before her, a sea of eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. This was her moment, the culmination of every doubt she had fought against, every thread that had woven her story into the fabric of that dress. Richard stood beside her, his presence radiating warmth. "You've got this," he whispered, his reassuring smile igniting a spark in her chest. She could see it in his eyes. He believed in her. And that was enough for now. Emma took a deep breath, gathering the courage that was starting to take shape within her. The MC's voice echoed, setting the stage for her unveiling. "Tonight, we have something truly unique. A design that's not just fabric but a heartfelt story brought to life. Please welcome Emma Carter and her breathtaking gown." As the crowd erupted in applause, everything seemed to surge forward, each clap an encouragement pushing her toward the spotlight. Emma stepped forward, feeling the buzz of energy course through her. "Don't hide now," she thought fiercely. "This is your time to shine." Amid the clattering cheers, she turned to face the audience, her heart racing fast but with clarity. This dress was not merely an outfit, it was emblematic of her journey. Each stitch spoke of resilience, every hem traced with the love she had for her craft. She raised her chin, her pulse steadying as she embraced the moment. "I'm so honored to share this piece of myself with you," she said, her voice steady. "This dress is a celebration of family and dreams. It's a reminder of the strength we all possess." As she spoke, she caught sight of Jane in the crowd. The once smug expression had transformed into one of disbelief. Emma felt the old doubts flicker within her, but this time she brushed them off like raindrops on her shoulders. The applause grew louder, and even Richard's cheers rang clear in the upholstered hall, boosting her confidence. Then, she turned back to the audience, the laughter and excitement enveloping her like a warm hug. The gravity of what she had accomplished began to sink in, each cheer lifting her higher. As she twirled, the fabric fell away from her body in a cascade of color and emotion, revealing the elegance she had envisioned. The audience gasped, and a wave of affirmation washed over her. She suddenly didn't feel the burden of Jane's expectation or any lingering insecurity. She felt alive, entirely free, connected to her true self. With each turn, she relished the moment, the music, the people's admiration, Richard's unwavering support. "This is what I've always wanted," she thought, the exhilaration flooding her senses. "To express myself without fear, to be wholly authentic." Then came the closing applause, thundering through the venue. She stood there, heart beating in rhythm with the audience's excitement, joy bubbling into her throat. She had transcended the whispers of self-doubt lurking like shadows. She had stepped into her own light and refused to let anything dim it again. "Emma!" Richard called, his voice strong amidst the chaos. She turned, breathless, and found him charging up the stage, pride radiating from him. "You were phenomenal," he exclaimed, wrapping her in an embrace that felt like home. "Thank you for believing in me," she murmured, leaning into him, still finding it hard to believe the night had unfolded as it had. "Always," he replied, looking deeply into her eyes, a glimmer of something more than friendship swirling between them. It stoked the embers of hope in Emma's heart, the idea that she could share more than just her art, perhaps even her life. Meanwhile, somewhere in the crowd, she could sense Jane's presence. Not the predator she had once portrayed, but more like a fading echo, a reminder of the hurdles she had surpassed. Emma knew she wouldn't let anyone define her anymore. She was the creator of her narrative. "Let us celebrate," Richard said, breaking her reverie. "Let us turn this night into something unforgettable. Let us do it." Emma laughed, her spirit soaring. Together, they descended from the stage, joining the elation that surged through the venue. Emma felt whole, illuminated, and ready for whatever came next. The moments ahead shimmered with possibility, rippling out like waves across an ocean. She took a step forward, arms wide open to embrace whatever adventure awaited her, whether in love or in the next chapter of her design story. Triumph flooded her veins. She had conquered not just the gala but the fears that had kept her bound. And in the soft twilight of Maplewood's brightest night, she felt the boundless joy that came with transformation. The future was bright, and she was more than ready to seize it. If you love this incredible journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us shine. Comment below your reactions and feelings about the ending. It matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans know how important it is to support the channel with these actions.